after we left Nick and Carly on the Sunshine Coast, we headed for the mainland and went and had a really quick, really nice visit with my family, because we hadn't seen them in almost a year at that point.
Give your son a
And that was really nice. But then after that, it was time for us to kind of figure out what we were going to do and where we were going to go. We sat down in the parking lot with the map, and at that point we were wide open. We really didn't have a destination. We had, I think at that point, we had about 4 or 5 days left till the next place we needed to be, and we were expected by people. And so we kind of kicked around a few different options, and we decided to try and do the road along Harrison Lake up to Pemberton. So for that first night, because after we dropped off Cooper and had breakfast with my parents and all that, we were kind of running a little bit low on time, so we worked our way up and decided to spend a night at Chehalis Lake, which ended up being beautiful. We lucked out, and the guy that was at the campsite right next to us was a member of the BC Four-Wheel Drive Association, which we're also members of. So we kind of struck up a conversation with him and picked his brain as to where we could go and what we could do. And he actually told us that he didn't think the road up to Pemberton was still passable. So that threw a little bit of a wrench in our plans, because it's a long ways up there, and we didn't want to get part way up and then have to turn around after a day or even 2 days of driving and have to backtrack the entire way. So after a bit of soul searching and looking at the number of days we had left, we decided we should just kind of loop up around to the north and get over to the Harrison Fire Lookout. So we started heading north out of Chehalis Lake and found out very quickly that when that landslide happened, it obviously wiped out that road to the north. And the news that we were unaware of is that they never rebuilt that road. So when we got up there, we found that they had actually created some of the largest dugouts I'd ever seen, top to bottom. They were at least probably 15 feet deep, maybe even more than that, and it was just entirely impassable.
Guess we're not going this way.
Guess we're not going this way.
Instead of doing Harrison Fire Lookout, we just went straight back down through Hope to the Fraser Canyon and up to Ashcroft that night. And we spent that night, which was definitely the highlight of the trip for me, at the Cornwall Fire Lookout. So from the Cornwall Fire Lookout, we left there the next morning and we headed east through Kamloops. Then we headed in towards Chase, which is just a little further east, and went and jumped in the lake, and then decided once again to try and figure out where to stay for the night. So we headed south towards Falkland and just went up into the mountains. So we started heading for this lake, and I absolutely screwed up. I was watching our GPS, and based on the GPS, we were bang on. We got there. Okay, here's a fork in the road. We turned left, and almost immediately we knew, based on our GPS track, that we weren't on the left that the map had showed. This was an additional road that wasn't marked on the map, and it was easy enough. It was a well-traveled road. It was well maintained, kind of going through this nice meadow. So we just said, you know what? There's logging roads all around here according to the map. Let's just keep going and see if we intersect another one, and then we'll loop around to the lake that way.
We looked at a map and thought that the logging roads connected, so we kept going. We saw some cows.
Hello, guys.
The road we ended up on just slowly degraded.
The road progressively got more difficult.
It seemed like every 5 minutes it was a little bit worse than it was before. Just kept getting worse and worse, but we were generally going towards the lake.
There was a tree down that we successfully, or mostly successfully, pulled out of the way.
Sandra wanted to turn around. I said we should just keep pushing. And before we knew it, the road was a mess. Sandra was trying to spot for us, and she had never done that before, so she was out in front.
And I don't think I was even using the right hand signals. I think I was going like this at one point. So Corey was so confused.
And I didn't know at the time, but she was extremely uncomfortable because she was really worried that she was going to do something that would result in us damaging the truck.
That was pretty stressful, but I don't think Corey knew how stressed out I was until after the fact, because I'd never really spotted before, and we were heading down this road that looked like it connected to the campsite we were trying to get to, and it just got more and more washed out as we were going further along.
We were in a spot where we were out of cell range. We didn't have any sort of satellite GPS communication. We didn't have enough armor on the truck to really be doing what we were doing. We didn't have rock sliders at the time. We didn't have steel bumpers. We didn't have a winch.
We were by ourselves and losing light, so we didn't want to risk it.
At one point, Sandra suggested that we just stop the truck and walk further ahead to see how much worse it was going to get. And so we got out of the truck, threw it in park, walked down this road, and about 200-300 meters down the road from where the truck was, it was a complete washout. Like, there were drops that were probably 4 feet.
And of course, we walked up ahead, and it turns out that it didn't go through. The road was completely washed out, impassable. So I had to spot Corey down until we could find a place to turn around, and then we had to go back.
Backtracked the entire way back out, got back to the original fork in the road, and realized the turn we were supposed to be at was about 50 feet down the road further. It's just Murphy's Law, and it's exactly why it looked like the right spot on the GPS. It was right there. And we would have been there probably 3 hours earlier if we had turned around right away and gone back. The next day we woke up and headed towards Vernon.
We went mountain biking, which was another highlight for me.
Get a bit of sweat and have a little bit of fun. We've been dragging our bikes with us all over the province at that point. Hadn't had a chance to use them yet, so we went down towards Cow Lake and hit the trails there. And that was the end of the trip. From there, we spent a night in Vernon with family, catching up and just enjoying our time. And the next day we hit the road and headed on back to reality. It was an epic trip. It was exactly what we both needed. 2020 has been a rough year, so having a good solid 9 days of just travel and exploration and fun was exactly what we needed. And by the time we were done, we were excited to get home and clean up and start planning our next trip.
Enchanté.